Society Move and Connect webinar series with TransLink today. Hop on board. We're just going to give everybody a few minutes to trickle in. So just get settled, get oriented here on Zoom. Turn off notifications on your computer. Whatever you need to do to get ready. Maybe my team at the Society can just pop up in the chat how many people we're expecting here today. Great, I know we had big numbers for our last few webinars. I can't see the chat as I'm in this share screen, but we'll just let everybody trickle in here. Great. Here we are. It feels quiet. Something happened to our music. We'll have to, does anybody want to sing, Karen or Chris?
That might scare people away.
Not feeling that energetic after lunch.
The chat box says there's 142% participants registered.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, so we're, yeah, it's a great number. I know lots of people will be here with us today and really keen to receive the recorded link that we'll send out next week. Well, we're at 1:02, so I think it's a really good time to get started. And people can kind of trickle in and ask questions if they don't feel oriented as they arrive. I'm Sarah Lucina. I'm going to be facilitating today's Move and Connect webinar on behalf of the Active Aging Society. So welcome and thank you for joining us and for being part of our healthy aging community. Yeah, we have a big crowd coming in today at about 142 registered. And I'm just so thrilled that Chris and Karen said yes to our invitation to present here to you today. Transit has a big impact on how we move around and connect in our community, and the physical movement and social connections that we have a positive impact on our health. So it's all connected. And I know Chris and his teams work really hard to make transit navigation easier for all of us. And I know that today you're going to walk away with some really handy tips to indeed hop on board. So before we get into the webinar itself, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping details. This session is being recorded and will be made available next week. And we'll send that link to you by email. And in that email, we'll also send a post-event survey and any resources that are mentioned in the presentation today. So don't feel too stressed about jotting down information and web links and sources to kind of follow up to. We'll send a lot of that direct to you by email. I know many people on the call today are not familiar with Zoom, so if you can hear me, congratulations, you have arrived. And in terms of timing, Chris's presentation will be about 50 or 60 minutes, and then we'll turn over to some Q&A. And we'll end by 2:30 for sure. Now on the Q&A, if you're not familiar with Zoom and you're not sure how to pose your questions, there are two ways. You'll see at the bottom of your screen here on my shared screen, circled in green, two options. A Q&A option, that would be our preference. I know we'll have a few people monitoring the Q&A section, and we'll be looking to channel your questions to myself and Chris and Karen to some extent. And if you're not sure how to use the Q&A, feel free to pop your questions in the chat bar, and we'll try and pull those out as well. We won't be using the raised hand function. I believe closed captioning will be on for the majority of the presentation. And if you want to turn that off, you can click on your More button, which has the 3 little dots. It might be at the bottom or top of your screen. And you can choose to take the transcript off. So on behalf of the Active Aging Society and TransLink, 2 organizations that span large geographies, we acknowledge and respect and celebrate the Indigenous nations whose territories we live, work, operate, and serve on. The Active Aging Society is an organization committed to health equity, and as a step towards reconciliation, I acknowledge that I'm joining you on this webinar from the unceded and ancestral lands of the Coast Salish people, and specifically the Tsleil-Waututh Nation. I invite all of those who are on the call to place in the chat the lands that you're joining from. And if you're not sure or you want to learn more about Indigenous peoples locally and globally, have a look at nativeland.ca. It's an interactive map that will help you understand the Indigenous territories across the globe. And as a step towards learning, I also invite you to review the 94 calls to action put forward by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Please consider the ways that you can in your personal and professional lives to meaningfully and boldly support work towards these calls. So the Move and Connect webinar series, many of you may have attended our previous events before. Our intention is to provide a platform where older adults across BC and beyond, including our over 6,700 Choose to Move program participants, can come together and learn about some of the best ways to keep physically active and socially connected. These webinars are meant for you, so be sure to fill in our post-event survey and tell us what matters to you, and we'll try and bring together our next webinar to reflect those interests. For those of you who are joining for the first time, check out some of these websites. Again, they'll be sent to you in your inbox. In brief, the Active Aging Society focuses on bringing forward programs and opportunities based on the best science that promote health as we age. And the evidence is resounding. For every age, sitting less and moving more and being social are some of the best ways that we can keep healthy. And supporting older adults to keep active is central to Choose to Move, this society's signature program. If you haven't yet participated in Choose to Move, hop onto our website to learn more about the program and when it's being offered in a community near you. In essence, Choose to Move is a motivation and coaching program that supports participants to build more physical and social activity into their lives, ultimately elevating their health and well-being. Choose to Move is presently offered by a variety of partners across BC, including the BC Recreation and Parks Association, supporting provision through municipal recreation centres, as well as the YMCA, a number of neighbourhood houses here in the Lower Mainland, as well as numerous health and social service societies across BC. I know many of our partners are on the call today, and it's our intention that our Move and Connect webinars support you and your teams as you do your vital work to keep older adults active, connected, and healthy in their communities. Choose to Move is made possible from support from the BC Ministry of Health, as well as the Federal New Horizons for Seniors program. And Choose to Move and the Society are founded and led by Drs. Heather McKay and Joni Sims-Gould from the UBC Active Aging Research Team. So without further ado, I want to welcome Chris and Karen to present to you. Chris is the manager of travel training with TransLink, and he has extensive experience engaging diverse communities and supporting them to access transit. Chris, over to you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for letting me and my colleague Karen Helix to join you today. We're here to share information about our transit system in Metro Vancouver today, and hopefully we'll have some time to answer some questions afterwards. Um, so let's begin. So for a lot of us, we probably, depending on your comfort level over the last 2 years, of course, that is the perfect time for people to call me. Mm, sorry about that. That was my home phone, unfortunately, and I can't really control that. With that said, a lot of us, depending on your situation, depends on your own comfort level. Some of us might have been in the community in the past 2 years, but some of us also who might be a little bit reluctant to be in the community. We might have stayed home majority of the time in the last two or so years. So it depends on our comfort level. Some of us might have used transit during that time. Some of us might have not used transit at all, and some of us might not even use transit before the pandemic started. But so today we'll talk about all of that and provide some information. So our community, can actually start participating. Um, Participating in going out using transit. So right now, as you use transit in Lower Mainland, timing is a big factor. It depends. It really depends on your travel, and also depends on your comfort level. But I think our recommendation to our customers is that if you can travel on less busy time, please do so. Well, on less busy time, it will allow for a little bit more flexibility. It will also allow for, depending on your comfort level, allow you to have a little bit more social distancing, a little more space, and a little bit more comfort. So our suggestion would be, if you can, for example, if you are going to go shopping or you're just going for a cup of coffee, you don't have to go at a specific time, then you travel at less busy times. Not during the morning rush hour or the evening rush hour, maybe on the weekends, or maybe in middle afternoon or early evening. Um, Now, of course, if you are traveling for, let's say, a doctor's appointment, you really don't have a choice on your timing. Then what we suggest is, if possible, give yourself extra time. And we aren't talking about going to the bus stop 5 minutes early, 10 minutes early. It's more about giving yourself extra frequencies, build in extra frequencies, so that in case the bus arrives and you don't feel comfortable with the amount of people that is on the bus, you can wait for the next bus. That will give you a little bit more flexibility. Now, some of you might also have heard that there has been quite a few changes on transit. So, for example, if you haven't been on transit for quite a long time, the first time you get on a bus, something might surprise you, is that there is now a barrier. There's now a door between the operator's compartment and the main compartment of the bus. So the reason was, there wasn't a lot of room to maintain social distancing between where the driver sits, where the operator sits, and also where the passenger board. So what they did was they installed these barriers. It's transparent. It's either a glass door that is a permanent door, or in older buses where they will gradually retire them, they put transparent curtains. That way, the driver and the passenger can continue to communicate. They can see each other. They can still talk, but it will provide that protection. And other thing that we did do during the pandemic was that some of you might have heard that there was a time when when you go on transit or be at the SkyTrain station, you will need to, customers will need to wear a mask. So with the provincial mandate changing on that front, TransLinks follow suit, and customers are and employees are welcome to wear masks if they would like to do so on transit. But it's up to the choices of the individual passengers. And in these cases, as I suggested earlier, depending on your comfort level, make sure you have enough room and make sure you have enough space so that if you get on the bus and there are customers that are not wearing masks, at least you have the options to move the other part of the bus where other customers are wearing masks or have social distancing, or wait for another frequency. Now, on the other hand, for some of our customers, they might be using HandyDart. So HandyDart is our paratransit service. With HandyDart, because a lot of our customers are seniors and also persons with disabilities, and a lot of them use them for medical appointments or medical purposes. That is why on HandyDart currently, customers are still required to wear masks on their trips. So for those of you that haven't been using transit for quite a while or have never used transit before, one of the easiest way to get information about our transit system is go on our website. So our website is www.translink.ca. On the website, the first thing you will see is our trip planner. So the trip planner will help you find out how to get from one location to another location. And we'll walk through that in a second on how to do that. There's also bus schedules. Some of you might have got copies of booklets of bus schedules before, but nowadays a lot of these are online. So you can go to our website or you can call us at 604-953-3333 to get the latest bus schedules. There are also news about what is coming up. So for example, some of you might have heard that we recently announced the 10-year priorities for Transport 2050, the long-term plan for transit in the region. So you can actually go to our website at translink.ca and find out information about major projects like that. Right now, you can actually participate in a survey to provide your input on our 10-year priorities. So you can log into the website and participate in a survey to make your voice heard. One thing I do want to point out is that on our website, there's this area called alerts and advisory. So these are transit alerts. What they do is basically on this part of the website, they will tell you everything that might not be going according to plan on your transit trip. So for example, if there are detours of a bus route because of construction, or for some of our customers, they might need to use the elevators or escalators to access SkyTrain station, but sometimes they might be under maintenance or they might have broke down, and they will provide alerts to let our customer know that some of these facilities might not be available, and provide alternative routes on how you can mitigate that part of the interruptions. Now, I think everybody on this call right now, they have some capacity to go online, but there might be other members that we know that do not have the access to go online. So there's still the phone number. So TransLink continue to have the customer information line, and customers can call 604-953-3333, and that's the line to provide to ask questions, but also to provide comments and feedback about our services. So let's walk through the trip planner. So when you go to www.translink.ca, all you have to do is let us know where you're starting your journey and where you're ending your journey. So for example, if you're starting from your home, you know the address of your home. So you could just type in your address. But what if you're going to a location where you don't necessarily know the address. For example, if anybody wants to go to, let's say, Metrotown, not a lot of people know Metrotown's address, but what you can do is you just type in the name of a popular location. So you type in Metrotown, and they will put in the address for you. After that, you just click on the Plan My Trip, and they will show you different routes on how to get to your destinations. I do apologize, the screen is a little bit small, but on the left hand side, it shows you everything, all the different routes that you can take, and on the map it shows you how it would work on a map base. Now let's say you like one of the options, you could click into one of them, and then, like a plane ticket, it will show you different steps on where you're starting, where do you have to go to wait for the bus, along how long of a walk would that be, and where do you transfer and things like that. So it will have a detailed options on how to get from where you need to where you are to where you need to go. And what you can do is you can also tailor the options to specific times and also to specific routes. This is actually a very useful tool. You could print it out. If you have a cell phone, you could take a picture of it. Or, of course, if you don't have those options, you can also call 604-953-3333, and they can walk you through that trip. Now, another useful tool to use is if you have a cell phone, you don't necessarily need to have data. But as long as you have the capability to text, you can actually find out when the next two bus is going to show up at your bus stop. What you can do is, with your cell phone, you text the phone number 33333. So instead of a 604 or 778 number, you are texting the phone number just 5 threes, 33333. And then in the message, you let us know where you're at by telling us the bus stop number. Every bus stop has a 5-digit bus stop number like this, and you type it in, and that will tell us where you are. So you let us know where you are, and then also what you're looking for, which bus route. So for example, in this case, we type in 52095, a space, and then the bus route 99. If you send that message a few seconds later, they will send you a message to let you know when the next two bus is going to show up, or approximately when the next two bus is going to show up at your bus stop. This is they use calculations and GPS to calculate the location of the bus to try to give you a relatively accurate time on when the bus is going to show up. Now, with that said, there are times that the bus might be delayed, or it might arrive a little bit faster depending on the traffic situation. So this is a good reference, but it's not to say that if it says 11:25 and the bus doesn't show up at 11:25, please don't be alarmed, because it might be arriving a little bit later depending on the traffic situation. Now, our bus system is actually equipped with equipment to allow for customers with different abilities to use our general conventional transit system. So for example, all our buses in Lower Mainland in Metro Vancouver are equipped with lift and ramp. So our buses have a ramp that can be deployed to allow for mobility devices to board, to be lowered, so that the entrance can better match the curb. Any customers can use this. Any customers that need these equipment, they can just communicate with the driver to let them know, I need to use the ramp, or can you lower the bus? And the operator will accommodate. If you can communicate, by all means, just communicate. But if you, for example, there are customers that might have difficulty with English, there are these cards called lift ramp cards. So they're pink with the word lift and ramp on it. What you can do is when you have one of these cards, you could just use it as a flash card and just wave it at the driver when the driver shows up. Some of our customers do put them in more permanent location. For example, if they have a mobility aid, they put it in front of the basket, in front of the mobility aid. I actually had a very nice old lady that actually put wear the sign like a medal. So that was actually very innovative. Depending on the comfort level of the customer, you can display the card as you need them. Now, all our buses also come with priority seats. So the priority seats are designed for customers with disabilities and also seniors. They are also for pregnant ladies and also parents with young children in a stroller or one of those baby strollers. But I think one of the things that we want to be very clear on is that priority seats are given priorities to customers in these categories. They are not reserved for customers. So there are times that we will see people that might not fit in, the description of those categories, and they will be seated in those seats. It's okay to sit in those seats, but what we also do is we communicate with our passengers to please pay attention to other passengers that are boarding, so that they are aware if somebody is in need of the seat more than they do, they offer the seat to other passengers. And it's also important to note that there are passengers that have invisible disabilities, that they might not look like they have a need for these seats, but they might actually have a need for these seats. So please be cognizant, please be aware of that. And if you communicate with a person and they said they need the seats, it's okay. By all means, move on to the next person. Ask the next passenger if they can give you the seat, and other passengers will be more than happy to do so. Now, as we mentioned earlier, our buses, they do accommodate, they are able to accommodate mobility aids. So in the priority seats are foldable. So sometimes if a customer would like to board with a wheelchair or mobility aid, the operator might ask people seated in the priority seats to move to another part of the bus, because that way it will allow the operator to fold up the seats to allow for the mobility aid to park in those spots. So that way customers with different needs can also use the conventional bus system.
Chris?
Now, of course, yes.
Chris, just a quick flag from my end here. I just want to note that the Q&A is active right now. So
Okay.
if you have a question as Chris is going through, feel free to just pop it in there, and Karen is actually answering as we go. So don't lose your question, put it in there, and Karen will flag if Chris is going to attempt to address this in our kind of Q&A section at the end. But yeah, I just wanted to encourage folks to not be shy and start engaging on there if they're ready to.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so let's continue. So there are times on our trips that, of course, we will need some assistance. So there might be questions, or it might be that something changed. So let's say, for example, bus went on a detour and it took on a different route. So you might have some questions about that. So at times you will need to get some questions answered. And of course, anytime when you have that, you can request for assistance from our staff. So of course, on a bus, the easiest way to do it is to speak to our bus operator. Our bus operator are very friendly, and you can just ask them questions. So for example, when you board the bus, you can actually ask them, will this bus take me to a specific location, the location that I want to go to? And they can answer you, yes, the bus will take you there, or no, this bus won't take you to the location you need to. This is the bus you need to take. So they can answer those kind of questions. Or if you ever are on the bus and you don't feel very comfortable, you can actually let the driver, let the operator know, and they can see if there are ways that they can help you address the issues. Sometimes you will also see transit security officers on our buses. They sometimes come on board. Now, what they do is their job is to make sure, of course, our bus system is safe. But what they also do sometimes is they come on the bus to check fares. So when they ask you to see your transit fares, you are not in trouble. A lot of times they just do that for the whole bus, and it's just random check that they do. So if you have a compass card or you have a bus ticket, you can actually just show it to the driver. But that's why it's important to have a valid transit fare at all times. After you pay, let's say you pay on the bus with cash, keep your bus tickets. Do not throw it away because you think that, oh, I'm getting off this bus and then I'm done. Because you do need to have that valid transfer when the transit security asks you to see it. Now, a lot of people don't know that this service exists, but we actually have done this for several years now. For customers that ride buses in the evenings, after 9 p.m., you can actually request for our operator to stop the bus anywhere along the bus route on a regular bus route. So for example, if your house is along a bus route, you can actually give advance notice and ask the operator, can you stop in front of my house? And then, of course, you tell them your address because they might not know where your house is. But if you let them know ahead of time and it's safe to do so, the operator can actually stop along the bus route to let passengers off. So that way, it's closer to the house. It's safer for you to walk to where you need to go. The only exception is that you cannot request a stop on what they call rapid bus. So those are the express bus route or the highway coaches, because those buses they don't stop at every stop, and they have to maintain a certain bus schedule. Whereas a regular bus route, they are more than happy to do so. So on a regular bus route after 9 p.m., as long as it's safe, you can request for a driver to stop anywhere along the bus route to shorten your walk to your destination. Now on SkyTrain, of course, we have SkyTrain attendants, and you can ask them to assist. But some of you might have noticed by now that SkyTrain does not have a driver because it's all automated. So there might be times that you might not be able to find a staff member on a SkyTrain. But in a few slides later, we will review how to get help on the SkyTrain system if there's no SkyTrain attendant with you. C-Bus, we do have C-Bus crew on both at the stations and also on board. Anytime you have any questions or need assistance, please reach out to our C-Bus crew and they will be more than happy to provide assistance. And of course, we do have the transit police. So Metro Vancouver have a transit police force. Their jurisdiction is to ensure the safety of the whole transit system. So a lot of times you will see transit police officers on SkyTrains or at SkyTrain stations. They are there to patrol, but just like any other police officers, they actually have the full duties of the police, except their duty is on the transit system. Now, we also want to share some safety tips, so some safety reminders. So, for example, one thing we talked about earlier in this workshop is that please arrive at your bus stop a few minutes earlier than the bus schedule to arrive. So I usually recommend 10 to 15 minutes, because that way it gets you to the bus stop to ensure that you get on the bus if it's on time. The one thing I do want to avoid is to have customers run after a bus. I'm sure many of us have been in that situation where we're walking to a bus stop and a bus is arriving and we have this urge to, I want to run to get to the bus. A lot of times that's when accidents happen. People trip and fall, or they or worse, they might be across the street and they have this urge to run across the street to catch the bus. So please avoid that temptation by being at the bus stop a little bit earlier. When you're riding the bus, hold on to something, hold on to a stanchion, hold on to a pole, even if you're seated, because buses make big movements, and some of us might have noticed that there are times that buses might have to do emergency brakes and things like that because of traffic. um, uh, it, in those cases, if you're not holding on to something, you might have lost your balance and you might have fall, caused you to fall. So it's highly recommended that if possible, even when you're seated, hang on to something, because that way, even if you lose your balance, you're holding on to something to help you maintain your balance. If you need the ramp, as we talked about earlier, please talk to the operator. Just let them know, I need the ramp, I need the bus to be lower, please provide that. Or you could actually let the operator know if you need extra time to get to your seat or to prepare to exit. If you specifically let the operator know that, a lot of operators will be more than happy to give you that time. So a lot of these has to do with communication. Please let them know if you need that time, and they will do their best to accommodate. And in times that you do need a seat, but the bus is full, please ask your fellow passengers. Your fellow passengers, a lot of them are more than happy to assist, especially if they see somebody that is in need. If one person doesn't give you the seat, it's okay. Move on to the next person. Uh, if you ask 2 or 3 people, I'm sure as a society we have genuinely good people that they will offer a seat. Now, in Lower Mainland, well, in Metro Vancouver, we're still using the zone system. Some of you might have heard that we were doing a fare review a few years ago, where they were talking about changing the system to a more distance-based travel. So work is still being done on that, and that is coming in a few years. But so currently we're still using the zone system. So for those of you that aren't aware what the zone system is, it's basically Metro Vancouver is separated into 3 different colors, or 3 different zones. So what you do is, as long as you travel within one zone, you only buy one zone ticket. So for example, if you stay and travel in only the city of Vancouver, which is one color, one zone, no matter how far you travel within that one zone, it could be that you only travel 2 blocks, or you are going all the way from UBC all the way to 1 block before boundary. As long as you stay within that zone, you only buy a one zone ticket. But as soon as you cross the boundary into another zone, so let's say you go from Vancouver to Burnaby, even if you only travel from one side of Vancouver to the other, or from one side of the boundary to another side of the boundary, if you travel on a SkyTrain, you travel 2 zones. So in this cases, from Vancouver to Burnaby, you are traveling 2 zones. And it's interestingly enough, even if you go from Burnaby into Vancouver, and then you travel to North Vancouver, even though you cross 2 boundaries, but because Burnaby and North Vancouver is in the same zone, you only buy a 2 zone tickets. because you only touch 2 zones. So it's not quite by how far you go, but it's by how many zones you touch. The only time you have to buy a 3-zone ticket is if you travel on SkyTrain all the way from Vancouver, crossing Burnaby and New Westminster into Coquitlam or Surrey. That's the only time you would touch all 3 colors, and in those cases, you pay the 3-zone price. And there are ways to save money. If you travel after 6:30 p.m. on Monday to Friday, on Saturday, Sunday, or on holidays, anytime during those days, or if you only travel on buses to go anywhere you need to go, as long as you do any of these 3, any trip is 1 zone. And that's the cheapest fare you can buy. So how much exactly is it to travel? So for anyone over 65, or if they are between the age 13 to 18, you can buy a concession fare, which is an orange Compass card. So the concession fare is a little bit cheaper. It's $2 for 1 zone, $3 for 2 zone, or $4.05 for 3 zones. And if you travel on transit a lot, you can actually buy a monthly pass on a concession card, and it only costs $57. So after a few trips, if you do 2 or 3 trips a week, it's actually better to purchase a monthly pass because it's actually unlimited travel for the whole month. Now, there are different fare products that you can buy, but for anyone that is over 65, you can purchase what they call the concession card. The concession card is orange, and it will give you the concession fare. It's recommended that for our customers that use the orange card, please bring an ID with you, because you might be 65, but you might not look like you're 65. So it would be very difficult for you to explain to someone that is checking fares and they believe that you are actually under the age of 65. So it's better to have a piece of ID with you. If you don't have a Compass card, it's okay. You can actually also purchase one-time use Compass ticket at the vending machines at the SkyTrain stations. And these ones are, you use it and then you throw it away. With a Compass card, you keep it, and when you run out of money, you just add more money to it. When you purchase a ticket, it's good for 90 minutes of transfer. So in 90 minutes, I could jump on a bus, get on a SkyTrain, and go on a C bus. I can actually go from on a trip to somewhere, and as long as I could get back on the bus or train that I need to get on to go home before 90 minutes, I can actually go and return on the same ticket. But as long as I'm past the 90 minutes, I have to buy a new ticket. So the ticket is good for 90 minutes, and as long as you can determine how far you can go, or if you can go back and forth, you can actually travel on one ticket. Now, when customers go through a SkyTrain or a C-Bus, they will go through what they call the Compass gates. With the Compass gates, you do need to have a Compass card or a Compass ticket to board those items. So for example, when you go through a SkyTrain station, you will see these gates right here. So with a gate, what you do is you take your Compass card, and we recommend you tap on the right-hand side. So there are 2 readers, one on the left and one on the right on the gate. So what you do is you tap on the right-hand side blue circle. The reason why we suggest that is, for example, if you are going through this gate right here on the right-hand side, if you tap on the right-hand side, tap on this blue circle right there, the gate in front of you will open and you can go in. And there is no rush to go through the gate. The gate has sensors. Until you break all the sensors, it will not close the gate. But if you're going through this gate and you tap on the left-hand side, you will notice that the gate in front of you did not open. It opened the gate next door. So you're stuck at that gate. Now, if it's not a very busy station, you can probably just walk over and go through the other gate. But at a busy time, it might be that somebody already walked through your tap and you are stuck there. So in those cases, you could wait a few minutes and tap your card again. That will allow you to reopen the gate. But the easier way is to remember to tap on the right-hand side.
Chris, I may have missed it, but did you talk about where to get an orange compass card?
No, so I did not talk up specifically about that. So for anyone that would like to get a compass card, orange compass card, the ones for 65 and older, they are not available at a SkyTrain station. But what you can do is there are a few options. You can actually go online or give us a call and they will send one to your house. Or you can go to your local stores like Shoppers or London Drugs and you could buy from the cashiers. A lot of them, they will sell these compass cards, the orange compass cards. And when you pick it up, you pay a $6 deposit. And it's a deposit. So if at some point you do return the card back to TransLink, they do give you back the $6 as a deposit.
We've also had a question about what progress has been made in providing a free bus pass. If you want to talk about the provincial government providing those.
So, are we talking about? I think I saw a question earlier about free bus pass for seniors and pensioners. So,
yes.
So right now the province does provide what they call a BC government bus pass. So BC government bus pass are for seniors or persons with disability that is low income. So that one is provided by the province, and what anyone can do is if they would like to apply for that, they can go to the website under the provincial government under social development, and there's a phone number. You could call that phone number and they will go through the application process. It does require a check on your finances. You have to send them your tax returns and to let them know that you are qualified for guaranteed income supplement or disability supplement. That's when you qualify for the BC government bus pass. As I mentioned earlier, there was that fare review that we talked about the distance-based and also zone-based travel. Part of that discussion was also to talk about who should get some assistance on transit. So, for example, there were talks about children getting free transit or seniors getting free transit. So that's all part of the conversation, and the recommendations for the province is reviewing those options. So, for example, the province recently made announcement that children under 12 they get to travel for free on transit now. So there might be other options coming up as the province look into this a little bit further. Now, we also mentioned earlier that if you're at a SkyTrain station and you see a SkyTrain attendant and you have a question, you can ask the SkyTrain attendant. But what if you can't find a SkyTrain attendant? What you can do is there are a few different options. So for example, if you're at a SkyTrain station and you just have a general question about using transit, every station has a phone in the front of the entrance. It's on the wall, there's no buttons on it, and the phone is black. You could pick up the phone and it will connect you to what they call the customer information line, which is the 604-953-3333 number. So you could ask them general questions about, for example, how do I get from here to there? Or I'm at a SkyTrain station. Where's the bus stop for this route? So they can actually assist you. But what if you're looking for emergency help? You need somebody to come help you right now. So in those cases, there is this thing called the safety and security panels. So these panels are usually behind the gates, in the concourse, or also on the platforms. There's a little door right there, and there's a handle. When you pull the handle to open the door, there's a red phone inside. The red phone is called an emergency help phone. So the emergency help phone is for emergency use. You can pick it up and you can talk to our SkyTrain staff right away. And what it also does is, other than you talking to our staff, what it also does is it activates the closed circuit camera, the security cameras that is pointed at the red phone. And they put it on the big screen in our control room. So what it does is, so for customers that might not be able to communicate, they can pick up the phone and our staff will see what is happening on the camera. So that way they can send help accordingly. So for customers that might not speak English or they might not be able to communicate by phone, as soon as you pick up the phone, we can see what is happening and we will send help based on what we see and try to assist the customer. Now, but what about inside SkyTrain? Inside SkyTrain, we also have ways for customers to communicate with us if they need assistance. So for example, if you are on a SkyTrain and somebody is making you uncomfortable, or they are doing something that you don't think they should be doing, and you would like to contact staff or contact the police, what you can do is when nobody is looking, when people aren't paying attention to you, you could press the yellow bar. There's a yellow bar on every window on a SkyTrain. What it does, it activates a silent alarm, so no sound inside the train. But it sends a signal to our control room, allowing our control room to know which train has been activated. And we will send help to send staff to the train to assist. What it also does is actually trigger a little light outside of the train that blinks. So the blinking light is to let staff on the platform know somebody is in need of assistance so they can go in. But I think a lot of customers also have this misconception. They sometimes see the blinking light and think, oh, the train is going to pull out of the station now. I need to run into the train. It might actually means the opposite. The blinking light actually means that there's an incident, somebody needs assistance, so it might not be the best idea to run into that train at that time. So in those cases, maybe wait for the next train or go into another train car. Now, for other circumstances that you might actually have to speak to somebody right away, on our trains, there are also speakerphones. Speakerphones is by the door. There's a red button that you could press to activate and you can speak to our staff. But what that also does is it actually activates the speakerphone for the whole train. So the whole train can hear you. So in a police incident, I wouldn't press the speakerphone to speak, because that way it draw attention to yourself. But what you use the speakerphone for is in case of an emergency where you need medical assistance or you need staff to come help you. That's when you press the red button. Now, I also want to give some information about our paratransit system, our access transit system. So some of our customers or some of the participants today might be interested in learning about HandyDart, or they might already be using HandyDart. Now, so for those of us that aren't aware, there are actually two separate programs under the so-called Access Transit program. So a lot of people have this misconception that if I qualify for a HandyDart, which is the bus, I would have this thing called a handy card, or vice versa. It is actually two different programs. HandyDart is the bus that takes you from door to where you need to go. HandyDart require pre-booking. So you need to call in advance to make arrangement for the bus to show up. And there's no card issued. So you don't, when you board the bus, you don't need to show an ID to prove that you are that person to get on the HandyDart. HandyCard is an ID card. And what that does, it actually comes with benefits that allows you to use conventional transit, regular transit, or other modes of transportation. And we'll talk about the difference. But if you're interested in these programs, what you can do is you could download this form from our website, from the HandyDart application form or HandyCard application form, and you just fill it out. And then when you fill it out, you bring it to your doctor or medical professional and ask them to verify your condition. There's also another misconception. A lot of people think that HandyDart is only for medical appointments. But in fact, HandyDart can be used to go to dinner. You can take it to go shopping. Some people actually take them to go to Canucks games. As long as you book it ahead of time, you can use these services. You can actually incorporate HandyDart into your regular transit. So for example, you can take a HandyDart to a SkyTrain station. That way it provides a lot more flexibility because it might be more difficult to book a HandyDart that will take you all the way from one end of the city to the other end of the city. But if you take the HandyDart to the closest SkyTrain station and you take SkyTrain the rest of the way, that might actually be easier to arrange. So what exactly is HandyDart? So HandyDart is a door-to-door pickup service. And what they do is they book a time. It could be any time during the day. So let's say 10 o'clock. But if your appointment is at 10 o'clock, your pickup window is 15 minutes before to 15 minutes after, in a total of 30 minutes. That's another misconception. A lot of people think it's 30 minutes and 30 minutes to an hour. It's actually 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after, to a total of half an hour. And within that half an hour, a customer have to be ready to go anytime during that half an hour. Sometimes they do send a taxi if we don't have enough HandyDart vehicles. But when we send a taxi, you still only pay your regular bus fare, which is $2 if you are over the age of 65. Now, some changes has happened recently with HandyDart. So for those of you that might not have used HandyDart recently, there are some changes. So for example, if you use a Compass card on regular transit, before you have to buy these tickets because they didn't take Compass card. So started from October 1st last year, customers can use the same Compass card they use on regular transit to use on HandyDart. The only difference is if you are using a BC government bus pass, BC government bus pass is not eligible on HandyDart. And with the introduction of Compass card, customers can now enjoy age-based discount on HandyDart. So for some customers that might have used HandyDart before, they would remember that before COVID, no matter how old you are, if you ride HandyDart, you are paying the full adult fare, so a higher price. But started from October 1st last year, as a senior, or if you have somebody in your family that is between the age 13 to 18, you can actually use the lower price, which is $2 per trip. So that is some savings there. And there are more improvements that are coming to HandyDart. And for more information, please visit translink.ca/HDM, HandyDart modernization. But what about HandyCard? So what's the difference between HandyCard and HandyDart? So first of all, HandyDart is, as we talked about, is the bus service. But you don't have to live in Vancouver to use the HandyDart service. Somebody visiting from another city in the country, or even from another country. As long as you use paratransit and you can prove that you use paratransit in back home, you can actually use HandyDart in Lower Mainland while you are in the area. But on the other hand, if you want a handy card are for customers with permanent disabilities. They have to live in Metro Vancouver, and they require assistance to use regular transit. So what does HandyCard do? HandyCard gives you several benefits. HandyCard provides anyone that has a HandyCard, no matter how old you are. You could be under the age of 65. You can still use concession fares, so the cheaper fare, using buses, SkyTrain, and SeaBus. What it also allows you to do is to bring an attendant with you to accompany you on regular transit, and the attendant travel for free. So you pay your fare, be it the scene, be it concession fare or regular fare. But what you do is, if you have a handy card, the odds is you're paying the concession fare. But it allows you to bring an attendant to assist you, and they travel for free. And what it also allows you to do as a customer with a handy card, you can purchase what they call taxi savers. So taxi savers are half-price taxi vouchers for handy card customer. So you could pay $50 to purchase $100 worth each month, and you could use them on your trips. But one thing I do want to point out that even with the discount, taxis are quite expensive in Lower Mainland. The taxi savers are not designed for day-to-day use. It's more designed for when other options aren't available. So there are no conventional buses, or you can't make an appointment with a handy dart. So that's when you use the taxi savers. Now, for a lot of seniors before COVID, they probably went to a library or a community center to pick up a copy of what they call the bus schedules, the bus timetables. During COVID, with the libraries and the community centers closed, we no longer print these bus timetables. So for customers that would like bus timetables, what they can do is they could go online to translink.ca and look for the information. Or if you would like, you can actually call us at 604-953-3333, and we could print copies of bus schedules for you. But what I also want to note is when you request for that, maybe just request for the routes you usually use. Because if you, for example, request for a whole schedule, it will be pretty thick like this, and it will be in big pieces of paper. So you might not want to do that because this is not very convenient for travel. So request for the specific routes, that might be easier. Now, we talked about a lot of information today, and it's a lot to absorb. But I also want to share some tools that you can use after this workshop, that if you want to look into transit, but you might not have caught everything that we talked about today, you can look into it at your own pace. So for example, we came up with these online tools that customers can use at their leisure, and they can go online and learn about our transit system. So one thing we did was we created this 3D 360-degree virtual tour of a conventional bus. So you could go online and look through a bus like going through Google Map. So it's just like inside a bus, and you could go up and down to the front, to the back, and to look at the different equipment that is available. And we have little bullet points to let people know some of the features that are in those places. What we have also done is that we introduce a series of travel training videos. So there are 8 travel training videos, one to teach different modes of transportation or different programs. So for example, there's one for how to ride a bus, one on how to buy a compass ticket, one on how to use the SkyTrain, one on how to get help things like that. And we made these videos multilingual. So for customers that might not speak English, there are still different language that they can use. So for example, they are available in Cantonese, Mandarin, Punjabi, French, and also American Sign Language and audio described video. So for customers with different needs, there are also options for them to use these videos as well. So that's all the information that I was ready to talk about. So that's the presentation. So hopefully that was useful information for everyone. But of course, we would also like to open up for some questions. So I will stop sharing screen, and if anyone would like to ask questions, we can look into these questions now.
Chris,
Karen,
we have a question. Yes,
Yep.
On the Q&A, are all mobility devices fit on the buses, all the newer ones, even the larger ones?
So no, so there are limit size. So there is a guideline. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact dimensions. But when customers go purchase a mobility aid, we strongly suggest that when you purchase them, talk to the sales team at the health store. A lot of them, we do communicate with the staff at these wellness equipment stores to provide them update on like dimensions and things like that. And a lot of them, if you let them know, oh, I need to take this on transit, they would be able to tell you, oh, you can take this one on transit, but not this one because this one is too big. And I also want to point out there is the dimension is slightly different between handy dart and also regular transit. So it's important before you make a major purchase like that to look into that to make sure that they fit in, they would allow you to board.
Kind of along those lines, we had another question. How large an item can someone bring on the bus?
So I think a lot of times is you need to use your best judgment. With items, they are expected that you first of all need to be able to carry them. So you need to be able, for example, if you see that, you need to be able to put it on your lap. I know there are customers that they bring shopping buggy, like little shopping carts and things like that. As long as you can pull it into a spot without blocking the main access way in the middle, you can bring it with you. But it's also important to note that the carts, some of the carts nowadays are pretty big too. So, but the main way to remember is that it has to be out of the way, and if needed, they can be collapsible. So, for example, if it's one of those big carts that is like like the size of like half a table, they need to be able to fold up so that if needed, they can be folded up and slotted between the seats.
Any other questions there, Karen, that you wanted to kind of flag? And thank you for all your answers in the Q&A. That's great. But anything that you want to elevate for the wider group?
Someone asked what about more frequent transit service? We have a new 10-year plan that addresses that issue, and we have a survey with bus questions and SkyTrain questions if people are interested in answering it on the translink.ca website.
Yep, and to Karen's point, so TransLink actually evaluate our bus service like every quarter. So we do adjustments to address some of the changes and some of the needs that we hear from the community. But it's important to note that if you ever are in an area that you feel the service are not frequent enough, the best way to let us know that is to put in a comment, give us a feedback, contact us at 604-953-3333, or send us an email. That way that we can collect these feedback and we could put it in to the team that they look at ridership and demand and things like that, and they could always look into the needs. If you don't let us know, part of the problem is kind of like the chicken and the egg.
Mm-hmm.
If there is no supply, people don't demand them and keep driving a car. But if there's no demand, why are we putting supply in? Somebody have to start somewhere. So it's important to note, if you are in an area that you think transit service can be better, let us know, because that's the only way that we will ever find out. Because, for example, I know quite a few routes, but I don't know every single routes. If you start asking me specific routes, I'm going to have to say, I probably don't know that route.
Mm-hmm. Just, oh, Karen, did you want to go ahead?
Yeah, we have some more questions that have come up.
Yeah.
In case I need a washroom that I cannot find it nearby. We have them on C-Bus, but not in the other locations.
So it's important to note that, so I think this is a common question that we get from any time that we're speaking to seniors groups and things like that. This is one of the biggest issue that we are trying to address, not just in Vancouver. It's actually all over North America or any transit system in the world. Now, with that said, I think there are some countries that they are more developed, that they have facilities in every station and things like that. TransLink, some of you might have heard that in recent years, we did actually, the board actually gave approval. So we are looking into building washrooms at key hubs, like major SkyTrain stations and major bus loop. So that work is being worked on and is underway. In the meantime, for seniors and customers with disability, if you ever run into a situation where you need to use bathrooms, what you can do is you could look for a SkyTrain attendant. And then if the washroom in that location, if the staff washroom in that location is not in the restricted area, the staff can actually grant access to customers with that are senior or persons with disability to use their bathrooms. So that's one way to alleviate that in the meantime. But I think there's also something to be said that part of that conversation, and this is a conversation a lot of us are having in the community, in the senior in this senior discussion, is that part of it is also the built environment. We also have to look at how close are transit hubs to other facilities, or are things being developed. So for example, one very prime example that I think was great genius, that was partnership between the different levels, was that at the city of Coquitlam, at the Burquitlam SkyTrain station, there's a park next to the SkyTrain station. And the washroom at that park is just next to the entrance of the park, close to the SkyTrain station. So that provide washroom access from the city to people that use the SkyTrain station. So I think there are a lot of that kind of thinking that we need to look into as we continue this conversation. But TransLink is looking into building some of these as well at major hubs, and that will come in several years.
And perhaps, Chris, if people feel like that's something that would help them access transit, they can include that in the comments section on the website, offer that through the telephone number as well. I have a few questions that were sent in prior to the event, so I'll pepper those in here for a moment, Karen, and then maybe you can bring us back to some that have come up on the Q&A bar.
Okay.
I did just want to acknowledge, Judy had asked if the workshop video will be put up on Facebook or some other platform. It'll be up on the Move and Connect page on the Active Aging website by next week. And our team can just throw that link up in the chat, and it'll also be sent direct to your inbox. So I think the take home there is there's lots of rich information here, Chris and Karen, that people want to be able to access later. So so thanks for such a thorough and informative presentation. Chris, you've addressed a lot of the questions that came in prior to the webinar, but one that has come up a couple of times is, and you did address it in the transit planning, kind of long range planning comments, but a number of people flagging challenges with the length of routes, you know, having to travel from maybe a suburban space to a city or like a more urban center to then go back out to another neighboring community. So no kind of direct routes between neighborhoods, needing to make that transit route into the city and then coming back out again. So could you speak to that and how long range planning is taking that into account?
So I think there are a few things there. So I think as seniors, you know, age in the community where they live for a long time, of course they want to stay in the area where they live. But I think that's the other part of the conversation, is that the services that they need might not be in the area that they are in. So I think that requires a much bigger conversation, and it's not just transportation. It's that our seniors or any vulnerable group for that matter, are they getting the services they need in the community? There are people that when they have the financial means, or if they have or they made the decision to, some of them, for example, my parents are kind of doing this. They are looking at getting rid of their home in like more quiet side of Richmond and moving towards closer to a transit hub. So downsizing, buying closer to transit hubs. But of course, buying closer transit hubs are not cheap. So they are having a little bit difficulty of doing that right now. They can't seem to win any bids that in a reasonable price for that matter. So it's that part requires a bigger conversation. But I think the other part that what we're trying to do, and you know, Karen kind of raised that, was that the Transport 2050, that's the long-term plan, the long-term transportation plan for Lower Mainland. And we recently just announced, we revealed the first 10 years plan. And in that 10-year plan, one of the commitment was to double the bus service that we have, and actually look into what they call BRTs, bus rapid transit. So with bus rapid transit, they would be able to put buses in to more areas without building the big infrastructure. So it's cheaper, it's quicker, and one would say that they would be able to access more areas because you don't necessarily have to clear the ground to build a overpass bridge, that kind of thing. So there are many different ways that we're looking into different options to do that kind of thing. But I think the other part of it is that we need feedback from our community. They need to let us know where in the area do they need the service, because we could look at service by statistics, by general data, but only by seniors sharing their thoughts, sharing like actual using experience with us. Sometimes we might only see the big picture, like are we getting the bus there fast enough or direct enough? But then it might be that the seniors or other vulnerable groups, they are scattered throughout the community, and the change might actually have a negative impact on them. So it's important to let us know that kind of thing when that happens. So That's why it's important to know the 604-953-3333 number. It's not just about the current trip that you're taking, but also if you live in an area that and you feel that the transit service, oh, there's a change coming that might affect me, let us know that as well, because we would like to hear those things before we implement changes that end up might be being negative to some of our vulnerable groups.
Yeah, exactly. And we still have 52 people on the call with us, so maybe this is a call to action. If you have a service need that's not yet being met, share it with Chris and his team through the channels Chris has mentioned. Engage your neighbors and family and friends who may also be wanting to get onto transit, but maybe don't have the service options reflecting their needs quite in the way that they like it. I also just want to highlight, I'm not sure if Better Environmentally Sound Transportation is still on with us, but they're leading, they're called BEST for short. They're leading a Seniors on the Move project and really kind of digging in deep to transportation issues affecting seniors and engaging with a variety of groups and communities across BC, I believe. So I've just put their Seniors on the Move project webpage in the chat. We'll include it in our resources. We are coming up on about 10 minutes before close. Karen, can I pass it over to you for any lingering questions there?
That'd be great.
Oh,
I wanted to know if...
Karen, sorry, before we do that, I do want to add this. So I know that there are many participants in here today that they might belong to a seniors group or a vulnerable group that can find this information useful. So part of what me and Karen do is that we go into the community and give presentations or to answer questions about transit issues for seniors and also other vulnerable groups. So if there is ever any need of that, let us know by either contacting us as TransLink, and I'll give everybody a phone number that they can call. It's our travel training line. It's 604-953-3636. You can give us a call, leave us your name and your number and the group that you represent, and what you would like for us to support, be it a workshop or just to answer some questions, or if you have an information fair that you want us to participate, we can look into all that.
Perfect. And BEST is still on the line, and they've just mentioned in the chat that they're excited to share the release of their survey findings. They've been in survey mode over the last year or more, and lots of take-home messages expected from that. So I'll be sure that the Active Aging Society promotes that release through our channels. Many of you are already on our newsletter, so it'll be there. But go to BEST directly and get on their newsletter. Sorry, Karen, I'm cutting off. I'm not doing what I said I would do, but I'm going to hand it over to you again in a minute. But Chris and Karen, do you have a newsletter, or does TransLink have a newsletter that people can join up and learn about these, 10-year plan releases or engagement events where input can be shared?
Yep, you can sign up for e-newsletter or e-news alerts on our website at www.translink.ca. So there are email groups that you could choose different subject that you're interested in, and they can send you updates as they are available. Okay, over to you, Karen.
Well, the first question is for you, actually. Is this workshop video going to be on Facebook or other people learning?
Yes, yeah, I think I did tackle that one. It's going to be on our Move and Connect webpage. If you pop up on the chat, that has been provided in the link. Great. But we're gonna tackle your inbox and make sure you get that in there.
So everybody will see my phone ringing in the beginning.
You dealt with that so eloquently, so smoothly.
I do apologize, Chris, for that, everyone.
It definitely is the way, It just is.
I can silence all the phone in the world, but I can't silence my home phone because it's an older phone. So I do apologize for that.
No Karen, trouble.
Karen, other
Okay.
questions?
We have a question here about transfers being available. I think, Chris, did you talk about the fact that all buses are one zone?
Yeah, so all buses are one zone and transfers are available now. But with that said, I also want to point out that when you go on a bus, paying cash, they give you a bus transfer. So some of you might remember these like from the good old days. Like it's a paper transfer that they just rip off. So there's no digital, no chips on it. You could use these transfer continuously on buses for 90 minutes. But what it will not allow you to do is to transfer onto SkyTrain or C-Bus because there's no chip in it and it couldn't open the gate. So with these bus transfers, you only travel on buses and you only pay $2 as a senior to get a ticket like that. But they are available.
We have a question here. Someone was invited to support the Transportation as a Right activism project in 2020. Is that something that the Active Aging Society is or was familiar with?
A question for me? No, it was not. And actually that was in my list of questions to pose to Chris. Chris, can you speak to that? Or do you know about that project?
I don't remember that project. If we can take that back and definitely speak to our colleagues and see if there is any progress or anyone has done any movement on that.
Yeah, and I'm going to just pop my email address in the chat. So for whoever posed that question, sorry, actually, Judy, or Karen, you probably have that on the Q&A. Amanda did. So Amanda, feel free to drop me an email and I can connect you with Chris and we can learn more.
And Amanda, I do want to add that, so that might not be something that TransLink was specifically involved in, but on the other hand, that has been a conversation going on in like the senior support and vulnerable group supporting community. So one of the things that we have been working with is, and Bess is also in that group, and multiple nonprofits are in it. And United Way is a big one of them. Is that there's a big transportation strategy that discussion going on. So if anyone here is going to the Summit of Aging this week on Thursday and Friday, there will be some discussion about that transportation survey and transportation plan, and that's what was mentioned. Rebecca mentioned that a little bit earlier that Bess is doing. So it involves a big part to, and it's not only limited to Lower Mainland. It's also about the whole province as well. It's taking a transportation audit for the whole province. Where are we at? And different areas have different needs. So it's important to capture all of that. So maybe get involved on that work if you are already not in it already.
I just popped the summit link that Chris was referring to into the chat there. And through United Way, you can navigate to some of their other collaborating mechanisms to keep connected, especially if you are a senior serving organization.
Yep. And if you are at the summit, I will see you there.
I'd like to read a comment that someone wrote in the Q&A. My mother uses a wheelchair and requires an attendant. Last week, she and I traveled from her care home to my father's home by handy dart. We never had used it before. It was wonderful. Very roomy, very clean, and the driver was so kind, patient, and professional. What a great service and a life changer for our family. Thank you so much for that comment, Marilyn.
Yeah, thank you, Marilyn. I'm so glad that to hear that. We'll take that comment back to our colleagues at Handy Dart. And it's great that the service is working well for your family.
And we have lots of thank yous on the Q&A too for you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. You guys are too kind.
And I think ending on this on a high note is always nice. Ending off with that Handy Dart accolade is nice, and we're at time anyway. So as Karen said, lots of thank yous coming your way, Chris and Karen and TransLink. Thank you so much for taking the time to collaborate with us on this Move and Connect webinar, and to support those who follow the Active Aging Society's newsletter and our past Choose to Move participants, and for helping all of us, older adults included, stay active and connected in our community. And you know, we look forward to following up with all of you through email with all the wonderful resources provided by Chris and Karen and TransLink. If there is anything else you want to talk about through these Move and Connect webinars, be sure to fill out the survey that comes along with that email you'll get from our team, and tell us more about the topics you want to engage in. We'll definitely return to the transportation topic to support Best's survey and their next steps in engaging in communities to enhance transportation options for seniors. So have a fabulous Tuesday afternoon, everybody, and we'll see you soon, I hope.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye for now.